The Magic School Bus, Plants and Seeds. Every class probably learns about plants and seeds, but not every class has Miss Frizzle for a teacher. When Miss Frizzle does something, she goes all the way. She started by letting us plant a whole garden behind our school. A photographer was coming to take a picture of our garden, so we all wanted it to look its best. To think that these beautiful tomato plants came from tiny seeds, Carlos said. Add some soil, sunshine, water, and some tender love and care, and you've got this great garden. And once the photographer takes our picture, we'll be famous, Carlos said, so we could be on the cover of Planet magazine. Would you like me to autograph your seed packet, Dorothy Ann? I'll think about it, said Dorothy Ann. Bo was not excited as Carlos. I wish I had the beautiful plant I raised at my old school. Tim put the finishing touch on the drawing. Phoebe smiled. That's it! Thank you, Tim, she said. Still, I wish I had the real thing from our picture this afternoon. Miss Frizzle spotted the drawing. Your plant looks lovely, Phoebe, she said. Not to worry. It's a simple matter to stop by your old school on a little field trip. We all piled onto the old school bus, but Carlos was worried that we might not get back in time for the photographer. This could take all day. Couldn't we fly or something, Miss Frizzle? Excellent idea, Carlos, she said. Suddenly the whole bus began to spin. It rose in the air as if it had wings. It did have wings. We were riding in a ladybug. As we flew over buildings and trees, Bo began to look nervous. What if Mr. Seedplot sees us? She asked. We never turned into ladybugs when he was my teacher. Just then, we all saw a school below. Phoebe stared. There it is, she gasped. The bus swooped in low through the school's garden. It looked like a jungle. Here's the perfect pedal said Miss Frizzle. The bus landed with a bounce and crawled along the petal of a huge flower. We crawled one step too far. Suddenly our ladybug bus slid into something wet and slippery. We're stuck in some goop, Ralphie yelled. It's called nectar, Dorothy Ann said. Follow me to the class, said Miss Friz. She opened the doors and slipped out into the lake of nectar. We didn't know it then. Mr. Seedplot could have reached out and picked us. Those plants certainly have grown well, he said to himself. She worked hard on them. I really should take one to her new school for her. Mr. Seedplot heard a buzz and he looked up. Ah! Bees! I won't disturb their work right now, he said, turning to a patch of tomato plants. We also saw the bees coming, and they were headed right into our flower. Yikes! Air raid! Shouted Arnold. Glory be! Said the Friz happily. As soon as these bees drink enough nectar, then we can crawl out of here. All aboard, Lady Bus, please. Next stop, Anther. Dorothy Ann is amazing. Even upside down, she could remember what she had read that morning. The anther is a part of the flower that makes pollen, she said. There we were, on top of the anther, with bees buzzing all around us. It was then that Phoebe caught sight of her old teacher. It's Mr. Seedplot, she yelled. He'll see us. Do something fast. Miss Frizzle stayed calm. No problem, she said cheerfully. We'll get out of here in the same way the pollen does. Miss Frizzle pressed a yellow button, and we shrank again. Now we're as small as a grain of pollen. Whew, said Phoebe. That was close. Carlos was not so happy. We'll never get back to school in time, said for the photographer, he grumbled. Be of good cheer. We're on our way, said Miss Frizzle. Hang on, she called, as the leg of a pressing bee swept us up and away. Off we flew, stuck to the leg of that bee. It was a short ride. At the very next plant, the bee bumped a flower and brushed us off, along with a lot of pollen. Here we are, Miss Frizzle announced. Where? Asked Phoebe. Tim showed her the picture. I think we're on the center of this stigma, Tim said. The bee had dropped a lot of pollen here. With a big sneeze, Arnold bumped into a grain of pollen, knocked it over, and fell down some kind of tunnel underneath. Phoebe looked down the tube. Mr. Seedplod will never spot us down there, she said, and she hopped into the tube and slid down. Miss Frizzle beamed. That's the spirit. Take chances. Make mistakes. Check out pollen tubes. Yahoo! She yelled as she jumped down the tube. We all slid to the bottom of the pollen tube. Now where are we? Asked Carlos. Couldn't we just grab one of Phoebe's plants and go back to school? I don't think we need a whole plant, Keisha said. Look at this. She pointed to something that looked like a big rock. It's a seed. I get it, Dorothy Ann said. When pollen from one flower lands on the stigma of another, it grows a pollen tube, finds one of these egg cells, and together it makes a seed. Carlos still wasn't happy. No seed can grow into a plant by 3 o'clock, he said. Not without some help, said Miss Frizzle. She reached into the bust and pressed a button. And suddenly things went wild. The seeds were growing bigger and bigger and sprouting hair. We need to hurry things along a bit, said Miss Frizzle. Everyone on the bus, please. We all rushed back to the bus. The door slammed shut, and we drove up and on to one of the biggest seeds. As the seeds around us grew bigger, the flower burst open, and we felt the sunshine in and a breeze blowing through the windows of the bus. Suddenly our seed flew into the air with us aboard. Away we flew on the back of our seed, carried along on gusts of wind. Carlos, still worried. Can't we go any faster? He asked. Well, said Miss Frizzle, this is pretty fast for a seed, but there are seeds that travel by attaching themselves to dogs or birds, or even people, she said, eyeing on a man on a bicycle. No, croaked Phoebe. That's Mr. Seedplot. But she was too late. Our seed landed in Mr. Seedplot's hair. Oh, how embarrassing, Phoebe groaned. We're almost home, still stuck in Mr. Seedplot's hair, and we hadn't even been introduced. So we all shouted, Hello, Mr. Seedplot, except for Phoebe, who was too embarrassed to talk. But when Mr. Seedplot swung his head to see who was calling him, we flew off. Last stop, Miss Frizzle announced. She pushed a button, poof, and the bus got big again. She pushed another button, poof. The seed, which had landed in our garden, grew into a tall plant with beautiful flowers. Ah, there you are, Mr. Seedplot, he said when he spotted us. I brought one of Phoebe's plants, but I see that she already has one. Nice to see you again, Miss Frizzle. Phoebe gasped. You mean you've met Miss Frizzle before? She asked. Mr. Seedplot smiled. Yes, she's a very special person. And they became on planet the magic of the garden.